In front of me, we have all the vehicles that are currently being tested and being added into test for World of Tanks Blitz. Some of the vehicles we've already reviewed, like the Lorraine 50-ton, like the Kari. However, some of the tanks we haven't reviewed. And in today's video, we are finally breaking into the statistics of the Rinoceronte. This is the Tier 10 Italian tech tree auto reloader, and a vehicle that looks absolutely busted in its current state. I'll be explaining everything you'll want to know about this vehicle in today's video, so stay tuned and let's get straight into it. It's actually kind of crazy that we already have the stats and overall armor profile for the Rinoceronte release, judging that the vehicle was literally added just a few hours ago in the latest update of the game. Now, I should mention that the stats are slightly off from what they will be in game, and I'll be showcasing that on the second page here. That is mainly due to the fact that there's a slight miscalculation on the website due to crew skills, so that's something I should just point out right now, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. We'll gloss over it. So let's take a look at usual the gun first when it comes to the Rinoceronte. As you can see, this is a double shot auto reloader, which is already sounding quite dangerous. As many of you know, I'm a firm believer in the fact that double shot tanks are quite hard to deal with. Look at the T-77, Object 752, G-SOAR, Barask. All of them are some of the top performing vehicles in their class. Even make your way up to tier 10 and you have the M6Yo, which is an absolute beast of a vehicle, and heck, even the Fanric, which is a pretty mediocre tank in all regards, is still a very solid performer in my tier 9s list just because of the fact it's still a double shot tank. Double shot vehicles have all the advantages of single shot in terms of DPM, but they also have the advantage of out-trading single shot tanks if needed. And that is where an auto-reloading double shot is gonna feel a little bit nutty. So as we can see, Shell 1 takes 9.72 seconds to reload, and Shell 2 takes 8.33. Essentially, you gain damage per minute dumping the clip in this vehicle. And you have a fairly fast intro clip as it is at only 3.3 seconds. I mean, sure, that's not as fast as a T-57 Heavy's 2.5, but you gotta realize that you only have one shell, so you're not continuously shooting and shooting, where, you know, a 57 Heavy, you're firing 3 shells, there's 2 intro clips, you're gonna be taking 5 seconds to dump. In this vehicle, it's just bam, 3 seconds later, bam, and you back in the cover. And it has pretty good DPM. 2,600 is very solid. If you add the 840 damage this vehicle deals with the quick burst to the base DPM of 2,600, you're going to be looking at around 32 to 3,300 with the intro clip added in. That's really, really dangerous, and I think because of that, just alone the gun on the Rhino seems quite impressive. Now, penetration-wise, pretty mid. I mean, the standard is what you'd expect, 270 is pretty average, but the heat at 352, yeah, it's on the lower side. I mean, right now the 60 TP's got 347. This is only about 5 mils more, so you'll definitely notice that E100 turret armor, Jagdpanzers, they're going to be hard to cut through, but I actually think that's fair, judging how good the gun looks in terms of its other statistics. For example, the HE, 72 mils of HE pen. That's quite a bit for what is only a 420 damage per shot gun. It's got 370 on the heat and a pretty nice 520 on the HE, so the vehicle hits hard. It's got decent damage per minute, and accuracy-wise, look at that, 0.317. That is incredibly accurate. If you look at other 420 alpha guns like the IS-4, you're looking at 0.326. If you look at, you know, the IS-7 with 460 alpha, you're upwards of 0.38. So this vehicle, for the alpha damage, the DPM, and the overall everything, accuracy, aiming time's really good, it's quite strong in the gun department. And we can also see 7 degrees of gun depression, meaning that this vehicle is going to be able to work the majority of ridge lines placed in front of you. And mobility-wise, the Rhino is also quite good. It reaches a top speed of 40. We're not even running the engine accelerator, so it has a power to weight of 15.4, which is pretty dang mobile. Even on medium terrain, it's actually got a decent power to weight, all things considered. It traverses at 30 degrees a second on medium terrain, which means traverse speed won't be a problem at all. And it reverses at 17. So this tank is going to be one of the few that doesn't seem to be limited by its mobility. Now, I should mention that this tank is obviously tested right now. It's being tested. So what that means is that the statistics could change depending on how the vehicle performs. It could either get buffed or nerfed. I'm going to tell you now, the vehicle is going to get nerfed. If it doesn't get nerfed by its release, it's gonna be absolutely insane. And that is because we break into the most important part, the armor profile. To really give the Rhino a run for its money, we have the T110E5 aiming at it. That means 374 mils of heat pen will be aiming at the Rhino. So first of all, we have the upper plate. And as we can see, it's nothing impressive. On flat ground, it's about 235 mils thick. Now, I would recommend to run enhanced armor on this vehicle, as the turret is going to need it. But yeah, on flat ground, it's actually pretty effective, about 240. It's going to be troll. You're not going to get a lot of bounces. You got to remember that the average tier 10 sits at around 255 to 270. So yeah, I mean, you're going to be penned, but if shells do stray to the left or to the right, as we can see, that armor becomes a bounce due to the angle that it is shaped at. I should also mention that using the 7 degrees of gun depression makes the entire upper plate a bounce to standard ammo. So in terms of the hull, the vehicle is actually quite good. It's not obviously E5 levels where you're going to be looking at ridiculously strong hull down armor if it loads. Yeah, I mean, obviously the E5 is going to be much harder to pen on flat ground. Even if you're loading heat shells, the E5 is very impressive. But still, I think this is pretty good. The major thing that I think you should really be looking at is the turret. The Rhino has probably the strongest turret in the game. On flat ground, the Rhino's turret is 370 millimeters thick. Yes, you heard that right, 370 mils thick, but that's against AP. If you load heat, because you don't have shell normalization with your heat, the turret is 408 thick. That means even a Jagdpanzer with calibrated shells is still going to have about a 50-50 chance of cutting through this vehicle's turret armor. And this is on flat ground. Using the gun depression, this is what an E5 sees. The entire upper plate is upwards of 340 to 350. So the upper plate itself is going to be a really tricky pen. And that's obviously the center. If you hit any of the angled parts, it's going to be a bounce as it's upwards of 400 mils effective. The turret using gun depression is 450 millimeters thick. Yeah, you heard that right. 450 millimeters thick. And you might say, well, what about this weak spot here? It's only about 330 mils. That means the majority of heavies, even almost a 5A, can cut through that with Cali. Well, there's a problem with that theory, and that is this. There you go. Now there's no weak spot. Take a look at this armor. 786 mils. Yeah. Even if you angle the turret or the gun that high up, it is still upwards of 380 mils thick under the gun. So literally all you have to do is after you shoot, tilt the gun up just a little bit and you will have no weak spots whatsoever hull down. When you pair that with a gun that is able to dump 840 damage with great dispersion, solid DPM, and really good mobility, you can understand why I think the Rinoceronte, at least in its current state, needs to be absolutely nerfed. Personally, I think the turret armor is the major problem. I think the mobility is good, I like the accuracy, and I think the DPM's really nice. I just think right now the turret is way too strong, and it should only be about 300 and maybe 50 while on flat, and maybe about 370 hull down. Maybe not even that much, but obviously that's using max gun depression, 370. So I do feel like you should be able to cut through this tank, or easier yet, just make like this part a weak spot, and if you tilt the gun up, this becomes a weak spot. I think that would be the best way to do it. I don't know. It's going to be a tricky tank to balance due to the way the armor is designed. As I said, I think the gun's really solid, so at least that part is nailed. But in terms of the armor right now, the Rhino is absolutely busted. I mean, that turret is stupid. There's no hatch whatsoever, as you can see. So, yeah, it's going to be a little stupid. We can take a brief look at the side armor. It's all right. It's 110 mils on the side there. 78 effective, though, so yeah. As we can see, it's pretty easy to just cut right through the track wheel of this vehicle. The back of the tank, the lower part is 46 mils thick. The turret is 42. So yeah, I mean, you're going to get HE'd quite easily in this tank. But for the most part, the armor is quite strong. Even aiming at the side of the turret, you can see just how red it is. Yeah, the Rhino is going to be absolutely stupid, I'm not going to lie. So, let me know what you guys think about the Rinoceronte in the comments down below. Do you think it's good the way it is? Do you think it needs a buff? Or do you think it needs a nerf? If any of you say it needs a buff, Honestly, I don't know what to say, but I'll see you all in the next one. Make sure to click that subscribe button down below because you won't see this content anywhere else. Bye-bye.